Welcome along everyone to Friday Live here from Precision Golf. As usual, I've got co-owner Simon Cooper next to me, and we've got on drums our editor, co-owner James Davey. Welcome along team, nice to have you with us. Another week has passed, lots in the world of golf, Live and European DP World Tour, not European Tour, DP World Tour, and it's been a busy week here in the studio. Lots of content obviously come your way again. Go check those out, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Got a packed show today. To start with, Simon and I are going to have a little discussion on three woods, fairway woods. I think it's a tricky club to get right, and certainly want to get Simon's insights. And if you've got any questions yourself on the three woods or anything really that you'd like answering, feel free to drop it into the YouTube comments, and we'll get that answered as soon as we can. So, good week for you, Simon?
Good week, yeah. Clearly, you need to wear the brightest piece of clothing you own today for the live.
That's only the fourth comment today that I've had from people about my bright top. Two from Simon and two from everyone else.
I can't talk, can I, with the lower?
Well, but they're just comedy trousers,
yeah,
Simon.
Yeah. Well, if your game's not good, you've got to have fun, haven't you?
You certainly have.
Yeah, no, busy week. It's obviously got the latter end, having had the Tour Championships at Eastlake last weekend. You know, BMW next week. You know, it sort of feels like we're coming to a bit of a crescendo in the tour season, getting to the back end of most of the amateur tournaments as well. So you know, we've had kind of back end of my own club season. So course it's starting to get green again. Bit of rain always helps. But yeah, just generally again, we're getting to product launch time. Some products out next week, and so looking forward to getting those in as well.
What products are they?
The new Titleist woods. That everyone knows about, that we're not allowed to talk publicly about until the 8th.
Okay.
TSR, we're not allowed to say that.
Right, okay. And any other brands launching?
There's going to be a ping iron a bit later in the year,
Right.
the i230 allegedly, but that's effectively a replacement to i210, which is such a successful product. So looking forward to that coming in at some point. Not exactly sure what release date's going to be on that. And there are going to be some new Mizuno products in about a month or so as well. So I got a couple of bits coming. Normally this time of year is the sort of quieter launches. Titleist historically always launched this time of year. Mizuno traditionally have as well. So most of them will be January, February.
Brilliant. And we've got some guests coming up over the next few weeks as well, which is going to be exciting. Got some news on new additions to our team, which we're excited to share with you over the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. Okay, well let's get cracking on these three woods. For me personally, growing up playing, three wood was always a difficult one, and I think it's probably the same for most of us. It's the one with the least amount of loft that we consistently play off the floor. Yeah. Always got to hit down on it, of course, but it's on the turf. But also you've got to hit it off the tee, and there's a bit of a conflict there, isn't there? I mean, guys that hit it off the tee, you can collect it, you're going to have a lesser down strike, which could potentially alter the spin rate, and then you've got something that you can obviously hit down on, which is going to drag the loft down, which again could affect the spin rate because of the dynamics of impact. What are you looking for when you're trying to fit someone with a three wood? Let's stick to the three woods just to start with, to keep it simple.
I think, well, first question is what's its main usage? So for me, the main use of my three wood is as a teeing off club. I'm not often playing three wood into a green, so you might be looking for a different ball flight depending on where someone's using it most. For a lot of regular golfers, they're playing as a distance club off the fairway. They're not really using it strategically off a tee. It's driver most of the time off the tee, or it's par three. So you're trying to work out where they're using it from most. That could impact what ball flight they're looking for, where they play as well. Someone on a links is not looking for the same ball flight as someone playing at Wentworth. So you've got to take those bits into account. But really, for the three wood, primarily, if you can get the club working off the ground, off the tee's easy, because it's teed up a little bit, you can sweep it. As you said quite rightly, it's the longest, least lofted club that we're playing off the ground. And when you tee it up, you've got margin of error of strike height. On the ground, you've got none. You either top it or fat it, or hit it perfect. So it is the club with the least margin of error across the whole bag.
I mean, and that's quite interesting because Simon says that he would take three wood off of the tee. I'm completely the opposite. I hate hitting three wood off the tee because in my mind, if I can't get a driver straight, what chance have I got of getting a three wood straight? I'm quite a good driver of the golf ball, so I feel that if I'm out of shape with my woods, don't matter what I use off the tee. So therein lies. I mean, you're different to me, and I think it's quite interesting. People don't maybe appreciate that. Oh, I'll drop down and hit my 3-wood. I have that. A good pal of mine, someone that actually comments on the channel quite a bit, Ant Lockyer, he asked me the other day, do I go down to my 3-wood? Absolutely never. I persevere with my driver, whereas you feel, not necessarily because you're hitting it more wayward, just because you feel that the 3-wood is a good option for you off the tee.
Yeah, and look, where I play my golf, I'm at St George's Hill, and a lot of the time, this time of year, driver isn't an option because it's too far.
Sure.
So a lot of it, I'm fortunate, I've always been a good 3-wood player. So it's always been a club I've been very comfortable with.
By the way, you've just teed yourself up that you're going to hit 3-woods and you're a good 3-wood player. But anyway, carry on.
On course rather than in front of camera. But it's something where a lot of the holes there's either there's a dog leg or there's a bunker, or I'm wanting to play to a specific point where 260, 270 is a good distance to hit to, 290 is too far. So that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of the golf that a lot of the courses around here being that little bit shorter than, say, a US style course or West course. Around the West course, I think driver everywhere, because it's just that much longer. So a lot of the time for me, it's a distance strategy rather than because I'm worried about straightness.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, get that glove on, Simon. Let's see what you've got.
Yeah. So I guess a bit about my club, I guess, would be a good lead in.
Absolutely.
I've always, through the whole bag, spun it a lot. So for me, through it again being off the tee, I don't want it to be too much shorter than the driver, so I want a fairly strong ball flight out of it. So I've got the Epic Flash.
In launch and spin?
I don't like seeing the ball launch high, and I've always hit it fairly high. So for me, once the ball launches up, I feel like I can control a lower launch. And so for me with the 3-wood, I used to use a 13 degree, and that ended up just being too long, and I had a massive gap back to my 2-iron, my driving iron. So I went up a bit in loft. This partly it's a lower spin head, so it means I can say from the tee it's given me a slightly stronger shot. But with this head allowing me to go up a bit in loft just makes it a bit more playable off the ground when I have to use it there as well. So this has been the bag a few years now, been a really strong performing club.
Loft you got on that?
15. 15 in its standard position. It's got 2 weights on it. It's got a back weight and a front weight where you can move the CG a bit. If you put the heavy weight at the front, then it brings the spin down a little bit. We'll go to club cam. So James will just log on club cam there. So you've got 2 weights. So the back weight, I've got the heavy weight at the back, mainly because as we've worked on my action, I've lost a little bit of spin. So actually putting the weight at the back keeps a bit more spin on. I used to use the heavy weight at the front, which took the spin down a little bit more. So as my actions evolved, I've needed just to change the setup very slightly, which is why it's a really versatile club from that point.
Great. Well, let's see how she performs. Again, different again. I much prefer flight. You're a lower guy.
Yeah, I'd much rather work it up if I've got to.
Yeah, whereas I like to feel that it's going to go up all on its own. I hate the feeling of not having flight.
Different forms of scar tissue.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
But and that's such a key thing when you're fitting them is you're fitting to where someone wants to see ball flight. As much as numbers, you don't want stupid numbers. So we wouldn't want, for example, a 3-wood with a spin at 2,500 because then it's coming out like a driver, and you then don't know what it's going to do when it lands. But someone might prefer a lower launch with a bit more spin, and that's where you'd use the tools we've got here to fit into that. So right. Okay. A little low on the face, but should be, safe.
Yep.
So low on the face, so that's spun quite a lot. Good ball speed, but it's spun. Commercial.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I think when you start to get people to talk about 3-woods and hitting them off the ground, you're certainly not looking for a scatter of your 8-iron, are you? You are very conscious of the fact that you've got very little loft.
That's a proper one.
Yeah, nice.
That's
nice
a proper one.
A little bit left.
So again, I mean, this also shows where, maybe for me, looking at that one, I mean, that was hit really well, but maybe I need to look at the setup of the club so it's not too flat. So that one's, I say it's right in that spin window. I said I don't really want it to be.
Yeah.
So as I actually do what I meant to do with the swing, that's where things can evolve. So in the woods in particular, it's easier with irons, but in the woods where you're working with less spin to start with, you're potentially going to need to change setup to keep the flight, if you do swing right, to keep the flight where you want it to be. So I'm never going to want a spinny fairway wood, but that one I might need to add a little bit of loft if I start to swing it properly.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, we hurt our drivers the other week, didn't we? And if you haven't checked that out, you'll be able to find that on our channel where we were talking about same club head speed, two very different setups. When I look down on your 3-wood, it doesn't look like it's got an awful lot of help to me. You know, going back to what we were talking about in terms of seeing the ball fly. Didn't feel too bad. A bit left, perhaps. Yeah. Doesn't feel the easiest club to hit in the world to me, and it's got a fat grip on it as well, Simon. I've only got little hands.
But you can see where yours is hitting the screen is very low, and those are both launched at 8.5 degrees and 7.5 degrees. So, so for you, it goes back to like we were looking with the driver. I've got a low lofted fade bias driver. You've got a almost sort of slightly not towed in, but slightly more kind of toe looking left, more lofted clubber with the driver. It's going to be the same kind of comparison.
And you can see my attack angle up on it, because I feel like if I hit down on it like I would do normally, it feels like it's not going to be airborne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 degrees down, and then we're down at 6.5.
Yes.
So good in a hoolie on a links. That's about it.
So that's your. And we'll obviously we want to talk about what other options are there out there for, you know, the latest equipment in terms of yours and mine. So mine's a forward.
Keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Put my glove on.
Yeah, but put your glove back on. But mine's a forward, so lofted, which suits my eye when I'm looking down on it. It never seems to spin that much. My forward. I don't know why you would be. You would know more than that.
The M2s from a design point of view were and ever since RBZ, TaylorMade with their fairways have been low spin, generally low spin clubs. So the M2 and the original RBZ, the current standard Stealth rather than the Plus, are designed to get a bit more launch, but then forwards. Gotcha. And potentially a little bit of right to left bias, so it can ties in with your driver setup.
Yes.
And then the other variable between our two clubs, this one's only a couple of grams lighter, but is very much a tip soft profile designed to get a little bit of kick and a little bit of spin. The Kyoshi Purple that I've got it's not tip stiff, but there's not as much torque, there's not much kick through the bottom. So everything about this is going to help you feel like it's going to get it airborne.
Right.
Whereas for me, I like.
You don't want to see flight at all. It's funny, isn't it? Two very different. If you've got any questions, guys tuning in, feel free to fire them over and let us know where you're watching from as well.
Matches the outfit well.
Well, you know, clearly you knew what I had in my bag.
Right, that's just gone vertical.
Yeah. Look though, it's a doozy.
Oh yeah, and that then so for me that's the kind of numbers I'd want out of a 5-wood from a spin point of view.
Right.
And that was hit nice. So kind of launch and spin. If you take the sort of things we're looking for, I'll flip. I don't know how easy it is for James to produce this one, but between the two screens, we've got 14, 3, 9 spin, carry 233, total 245. My 3-wood there, 250 going. Okay, that's come out like a bullet, but essentially what you've then got, so for me those two flights give me something that's going to stop before the 3-wood lands. And so effectively getting that kind of stopping distance and then carrying over the top of it, that kind of rolling profile is what we'd look for top end of the bag. So for me, that's a very nice 5-wood.
Okay, no to be offensive, Simon. Whereas for me, it feels like a very nice 3-wood. But it's funny though, isn't it? I mean, I think that's, I don't think people appreciate when you work with good players, tour players, they have got so much variety in their bag. They just make a club work for them. It doesn't matter whether it's got 4 written on it or 9 written on it. If it suits a purpose.
Yeah, I mean, someone like Dustin uses a forward.
Right.
Forward and 7-wood he's used
so
at
it's
Masters.
me and Dustin.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So depending on the impact position, so he's got a very, with the right kind of camera angle,
Over
he's
here.
got a very kind of forward into impact. He's very hands forward and covered, so he takes loft off. So he needs more loft to get the ball airborne again, whereas someone who's got more of an underneath release, like I do, doesn't need the loft to keep it full. So he plays more loft than a lot of amateurs do as a first fairway with.
I'd just like to add, before I hit this, I don't really like this forward. Just want to throw that out there.
Excuse in early.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that excuse in early because it's not my favourite club in my bag. Oh, having said that though, it's not too bad.
But then, and again, this is the point of difference. You've then got the same numbers with that club that I got with my 3-wood from a spin point of view. So it's very, very similar. So hence we do what we do. You know, every player needs something totally different, and you know, we've got like the drivers, very similar club speeds, very similar end results, but got there just totally different
very different ways. Which I think, guys tuning in, we got very similar club speeds. But in terms of profile of clubs, it's like night and day.
Chalk and cheese,
It really is. So let's have a little look at what's on the market now then that's going to, obviously, updated equipment. As we've said many times on the show, that really it's about scatter, performance in terms of consistency of outcome is really where technology has gone to, isn't it? Rather than distance, they've sort of reached the precipice of that. It's about making the ball keep doing the same thing rather than necessarily going further and further. What is it that, so we've got a titeless drive or a titeless 3-wood that you're putting together now. What's this offering up slightly different?
Well, this would be more kind of an equivalent to what you've got. So it's actually whether it's irons, hybrids, fairway woods, drivers to a point, getting a club that retains a bit of flight and spin. So this is the head that's about to be superseded by the TSR. This is TSI2. And it's one that we've done really well with this year because it retains some flight. Right. You know, the TSI3 is the lower spinning, lower flighted club head. But if you take every brand, Callaway with the Rogue Max launches but doesn't spin that much. The TaylorMade's a low spin. The Strixon's a bit of a bomb of a club. Every brand's looking for distance. And what's been great with this head throughout the last year or so is that we've got an option to get the thing airborne, which are pretty few and far between. I'm going to check the balance, make sure that's nothing.
I mean, certainly, all of our bays have got swing weight machine, CPM machine, so that people can have an understanding of what their equipment is and what they're about to have in their hands. Not necessarily all the time people understand it, but it at least gives them a start of working knowledge of what we're actually doing here. It's not sort of throwing things at the wall and just hoping it works.
Yeah, what I've done just there is just check the overall swing weight, the overall balance, just to make sure it's relevant, knowing what we both play with. So it was a little light, so I just put a little bit of weight on the toe. Gotcha. So this one's a 15 degree. TSI2. It's not a really draw-based head, but definitely one that's, we've had a lot of success with getting the ball airborne and keeping a bit of flight and spin on. And then the comparison's going to be the kind of current TaylorMade option.
Can we just have a little look at the head before you hit it? We have a little look on club cam.
There's a little bit of lead tape on the top.
Yep.
That's just from a weighting point of view. So it's not a particularly shallow profile of head actually. It's just where they've got a bit more weight at the sole, and generally centre of gravity position helps not to knuckle spin off.
Gotcha.
So.
Oh, that looked like that.
See how high that one's gone.
Proper Rooney.
I'll do one more of that. But again, it's that initial launch profile.
Yes.
That's what a lot of people struggle with. That's why we do a lot of 4-woods, a lot of 5-woods as the first, as effectively as a 3-wood. To get enough spin and launch, we've got to go up in loft. Yeah. So a lot of 5-woods create a 3-wood ball flight for players now. So we're doing a lot of, say, 4 or 5-wood and then a 6 or a 7-wood to get 3-wood and 5-wood flights. Let's give that one more.
And of course, the other slight issue is that people don't appreciate that if it's not right, the 3-wood almost can drop off a cliff in distance, can't it? Because it's not got some flight, it hasn't got any spin. So adding that extra bit of loft to it, extra bit of spin, actually bridges the gap between a long iron and a driver.
Gets more flight. I mean, that one I've turned over a little bit, so it's I can knuckle a bit of spin off. But yeah, I mean, and it's like with long irons, fairway woods, long irons. If you go, or any club drive, if you go too low in loft, you lose too much spin. The ball can't stay at the top of the flight. Yeah. So it's why people say, I hit my 5-iron and 4-iron the same distance through the air. It's because the 4-iron doesn't stay in the air. you don't get the lift involved to keep the thing airborne. But I mean, say this one's a 15 degree, your current one's a 16.5. So you know, this one's still a fairly low base loft for you.
Yeah, that feels like, for me, feels like a hooking machine.
Yeah, yeah. But you can see because the loft's not there.
Yeah.
Whereas when you get yours with that extra 1.5 degrees of loft, up it goes.
Yeah,
so for you, it's not just head style. You need absolute loft on the club to see that flight.
And I think what's interesting, again, something other people won't necessarily appreciate, it felt like I've put the same swing on those two as I did on that one, and that one felt like my one felt, again, left is my bias as a player, but I just did the same thing, and yet the ball hasn't suddenly come out like feeling like it's starting a million miles left.
No, so for me, and that's probably where you didn't need the extra weight on the head.
No.
I do, you don't. And so, again, all these things go into the directional consistency. Again, for you, you've got the loft on it, the spin's back up at a slightly safer level near 3,000. So it's like with everything, it's finding the right tools for that particular player to make everything come together to not compensate, to complement everything else. So it's a real kind of, you know, everything goes in the melting pot, and the right flavour for the right person comes out the other end.
Of course.
Yeah, still a little heavier behind.
Yeah, but that was a hideous shot. But that actually felt a bit better without that lead tape on the end. Yeah, that feels much better.
So for you get a little bottom end heavy. The club then gets behind, and then you've got to play catch up and whip it round. Hence the low hook. Whereas
could you see where that one? Yeah,
you've still got that bit of a drawbar, but again at that loft, it's still a 8.5 launch and a driver spin.
Yeah.
So your requirements from the head are very much get a bit of loft on it and get a head that kicks it up.
Yeah. So what else we got? We've got the stealth head there,
which couldn't be less appropriate for you.
But is that right? So what?
Because it's that much lower spin again.
Is it?
So
right.
again,
Okay. Well, let's get that head out, and let us hit it. It's I mean, my expertise is not fitting clubs, obviously, but it still fascinates me how different that club felt with taking, how many grams was this?
That's about 1.5 grams, 2 grams max. So just under a swing weight point.
So like two grams of weight, it changed the club from feeling I couldn't keep it out of the left-hand trees to only taking a provisional drop rather than actually losing the ball. And so the profile of the stealth is, the reason why it spins a little less is because...
So part of it, it's a very heavy sole plate, but they've got, where they positioned kind of the structural strength, I mean, they face thicknesses, the way they design that. Again, the weight, whilst there is a weight at the back, it's heavy sole and low and forward in terms of centre of gravity, and it's that low centre of gravity that you get spin down. I think we've discussed it with irons in the past. So it helps get a bit of launch, but it brings spin down, and particularly low and forward centre of gravity. So the more you can move the weight that way down and forwards in the head, so it's sort of effectively down that part, the more you get a reverse gearing and take the spin off.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and this one's been very, very strong performing club this year. I mean, they're as good as out of stock worldwide now.
Really?
We've got a few heads coming in, but this is, actually saw an email from some of our US sort of friends who update stock to us over here as well. And yeah, they're basically out globally of these heads until
I am not one of their customers by the sounds of it. It's
you'll
not
be
going to suit me.
But yeah, been very strong performing, and actually again where we can loft it up a bit and keep spin down. Again, there are a lot of players who cut across it, open the face, spin the ball a lot. That's where this has been a particularly strong performing head.
Interesting.
Okay. Little scoopy on it. Yes. Just do, that's got a missed spin read.
And the shaft that we've got in this club?
Graphite Design VR7. So
a cousin of this, I'm guessing, is it?
Yeah, it's similar. I mean, similar weight. It's a couple of grams heavier. The DJ was a particularly soft tip shaft, so it made it a very, very good fairway shaft. The VR is similarly as being a very good fairway shaft because it uses the tip to recover a little bit. So on the smaller fairway wood heads, you can use a softer tip because you want the head to recover. On a driver, some of the softer tips allow it to twist a little bit too much. So you generally go for something firmer tip in the driver in the fairway wood, which is why you rarely will see the tour players using the same shaft and driver and fairway wood.
Right.
And that's why you rarely see the same model of shaft through at the top in the bag like you used to.
Right, right.
Let's see if I can get a reasonable
Remember,
hit.
if you've got any questions, feel free to fire them in. Always happy to answer them. That was a nice shot.
Yeah,
That
so
was a nice shot.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
so
no
very
problem.
suitable head for me based on my requirements from
Thanks very much,
from a spin.
Simon. Much appreciate that. I look forward to not getting this airborne. But having said that, though, it's a very nice looking head, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a head they've done a very good job with this year.
Oh, no, I like that.
So actually, because it's
I
got
like
a
that.
heavier
I
sole,
like that. I like that.
so this is where, for you, the data is really interesting. Because there's a lot of weight at the bottom of the club head.
No, you're not getting it. You're
Well,
not getting it.
No, it's launched,
You
okay,
can-
but you've got
you
no
can touch
spin
it,
on
but you can't look at it.
whatsoever. Unless you want it to run for like that, run 35 yards.
No problem with that, Simon.
Yeah.
I'm not a proud man.
So, but again, it's all about kind of, if for this head it works well, we'd need more loft. For you, we'd actually probably use the 5-wood head and loft it down. Because at 1900 spin, that's low for a driver. So that's where the head style works well to get into the bottom of the ball, and it's delivering good ball speed. That smasher 150 is great, but it's about, well, we want probably 50% more spin than that. So up near 3,000.
I need to have another go
Which
at that.
you can do if you hit a slice.
I'm going to work some magic. I'm going to see if I can find another 1,500 revs from absolutely nowhere. Oh, no, that was terrible. Goodness me. Yeah, I quite like that.
It's
I
the
quite like
the
that.
contact's great. You know, quality of contact, quality of ball speeds, right up the way we want it to be.
That one, almost
But
150 again.
you're going to have to manipulate at that loft. You're going to have to manipulate it so much to get enough trajectory on there, and that's where I say you might use the same head style, but up in loft. You use the 18-degree 5-wood or 90-degree 5-wood and loft it down to 17, 17 and a half.
Right.
To enable you to get enough launch, enough spin to make it a 3-wood flight. Otherwise, you've just got 2 drivers in the bag.
Yeah, I've always found 3-woods to be tricky to get. So what would be out there for someone that, like me, is a low spinner, low launcher would it literally be going to a 4-5-wood setup?
Well, essentially, that's what you've got with yours. They're, brands don't like putting forward on it. So, for example, on here, I don't know how close I can get to it to show it. It's got 3HL, 16.5 degree. That's a forward. But they don't like putting forward on there because most golfers just assume, right, it's a 3-wood, it's the next club in the bag after the driver. But so like Dustin Johnson uses a 16.5, 17 degree forward as his first club in because of his impact position. So like for you, you deliver not a lot of loft at impact, so you need the loft to get the thing airborne. So, and that's where for you, and actually for a lot of golfers the last couple of years, we're doing a lot more forward and 5-woods as that first club back from driver. If you've got a driver that measures 13, 14 degrees of actual loft, say 13, if you go 3 or 4 degrees on from that, you're at 17. That's a forward. If you're at 10.5, 11 on the driver, you're at 15. That's a 3-wood. But if you're proportionally in the same place. So there's absolutely no shame in going to whether it's 5-wood, 7-wood, as long as it gives you the right result. But for you in particular, yeah, you need a head that's got the CG nice and low to collect the ball, to get into the bottom of the ball. Right, because you don't hit down and don't get the weight into the bottom, you collect it. You need the weight at the bottom to get under the CG of the ball, but then a bit of loft to get the launch height.
Yeah. We've got a question coming from Tony. Thanks for your question, Tony. Always nice to hear from you. There's a lot of talk lately about the versatility of a 7-wood. What's your thoughts on this, and how well does it fit into a bag, and how does it compare to, say, a 3 hybrid?
So, yeah, I think what's happened is a lot of club heads have become, a lot of the fairwoods have become lower spin. So go back 5, 6, 7 years, we did very few 7-woods because they spun so much. They just went, in any breeze into it was like hitting a brick wall. There was all the stalling of the extra spin they used to get. So we did a lot more hybrids because it stopped the ball flaring too much. We're doing many more 7-woods again now. For that reason, the flight's just a little more stable. And I think now where it's fine, hybrids have been used because they've given the right shot. More players are more comfortable in an iron or a fairway wood because they know what to do with it. It's a wood or an iron. The hybrids kind of sit in a bit of a no man's land. Generally work better hit like an iron, but they kind of sit in that kind of how am I meant to use it category. But I think where golf courses have got longer, that carry distance generally is more important in the main. So the 7-wood will get up higher, carry further, land softer. A hybrid's going to come in a little bit flatter. So if you've got a long iron, a hybrid, and a fairway wood at the same loft, you've got kind of long iron flat, hybrid in the middle, and fairway wood launches higher just from where the centre of gravity position sits. So the 3 hybrid will come in a bit less spin and launch lower, carry a bit less and maybe run out a bit more. 7-wood's going to launch higher and land softer. Some people prefer hybrid out the rough. Because of the bigger footprint on the 7-wood, you've got to get it into the bottom of the ball, and you've got to displace more grass to get it there. But again, it's horses for courses ultimately.
It does feel that manufacturers have cottoned on to the fact that predominantly most of the golfers out there are working across the back of the ball with an open face, which is going to make the ball have spin.
Yeah.
In most cases, a bit of launch. And they've worked out, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take the spin away. We're going to bring the launch down. And then when you get guys that don't deliver the cut across the open face, it feels like because there's far fewer of those, you actually, well, okay, we'll just let them go and use a 5-wood. Yeah. That kind of behaviour of the equipment.
And it makes the ball go further. It spins as it goes further. So the last 20 years, golf's been about, equipment's been about, get the ball to go further, win a launch monitor kind of test. And there's not been enough thought for what is it going to do on the far end when it lands? What do you need it to do when it lands? Faster faces have taken a bit of spin off as well, where they've gone thin, a little bit more flexion of the face. That takes a bit of spin off, partly because it also lightens the face, so it puts the centre of gravity lower. And that's all fed into the extra distance and the stronger flight the fairways now have. But I think also, where you're seeing more tour players going to the higher lofted woods. Again, the courses they're playing are bigger and longer. They've got to come in from height. They've got to land it soft. People using 7-woods, 9-woods, or Augusta. That then makes it acceptable for the amateur to use a 7-wood. If the number 1 golfer in the world at the time is using a 7-wood, well, it's not. How many head covers have you got in your bag? He was the player that beat Tiger in the PGA with no more than 5 iron in the bag. Asian player. Yeah, can't remember his name.
Anyway.
Yeah, it'll come to me when I stop thinking about it. But that was sort of the starter of having mid-iron into hybrids, into fairway woods, into that's what a lot of amateurs should probably be playing. 5 iron's hard enough to hit, but again, it's really, to very long-windedly go back to the question. It's about finding the right flight window, and a hybrid or a fairway or an iron is going to fit it depending on the player style.
So in answer to Tony's question, in summary, you've got to appreciate that there are 3 options out there. Use the one that suits you best.
Yeah, and where you play. And that's the one bit of the bag where, along with a lob wedge with different grinds, you might have like a driving iron for links and a fairway wood for parkland golf.
Yeah.
To give you the right shot for the right course. Extravagant, but that's the only bit the pros really change.
Yeah, great. We've got another question come in. I've got Mike and McCory. Hi, Simon. Late to the stream. Can you suggest a few shafts that will kick the ball up in the air a little easier? He's a low spinning player like me. Welcome to the club. So you must be a bit of a hook face golfer as well.
Hi, Mike. I think, there's a few different weights. The the amount of extra flight the shaft itself on its own is going to do is pretty minimal. You're looking at a couple of hundred revs, maybe half a degree in launch in terms of just the way it bends. But anything with the soft tip design, so you've got, if you go into, there's a sort of clubmaker series, the C6 Red, that's a soft tip design to kick it up. I mean, the DJ, that graphite design, that one's actually been superseded, but that was always great. Let's think into a really soft tip. Acca into their iWood series. They don't get them at many places, but they're designed with a very soft tip to get a bit of kick. I mean, they do wood-specific shafts as well. The VA Composites Sleigh, that's softer tip. And most brands will do one.
Yep.
Because they have to cater for someone who needs that bit of extra kick, something more often not with the driver. It'll be a lighter weight and a softer tip to get the clubber through, to get the launch, to get the spin. And that characteristic is the most key thing.
And of course, it's predominantly, as you say, down to the head. The shaft definitely helps the kick and the spin, but it's the cherry on the cake more so.
Yeah, it's more about allowing you to deliver the club in sync and find strike. You know, to be strike gives you the weight that they're getting into the right bit of the ball, so getting to the bottom of the ball to get the flight up.
Yep.
But most of it, when you get to a driver, there's a bit more of a bearing on the flight because you've got the centre of gravity sitting further from the face. So as that shaft changes the delivery, it can change that spin launch profile a bit more. Fairwood hybrid irons, most of it's about timing. Yes, you can use profiles to help with a flight and a bit of its feel. So someone who hits a low ball is going to like the feel of a shaft, giving a bit of pop, and it's going to feel like it gets up in the air, and you're not going to have to work it hard. Whereas, conversely, a high ball hitter does not want to feel the bottom of the shaft wobble around and prefers the firmer tip. But 90% of that flight is down to your delivery and the head loft and style. Yeah. Those are the two bits that really control the flight.
Very good. Well, I know that you've got to slip away to a fitting now, haven't you? Is that right?
Have we already got to?
Yeah, we're there.
We're already there.
We're 40 mins in.
It's just been too fun.
We're 40 mins in. And so what have you got? Who have you got up
I've
now?
got a long-term repeat offender who actually we haven't seen for a little while. He's coming in just to check the whole bag out. We did, I think last time we saw him was about 4 years back. So just a kind of a general check over, see what we can do both top and bottom. I won't name him in case his partner doesn't know that he's here. It'd be interesting because it's been long enough that there's been technological upgrades, and whether, probably particularly on the irons, something that could just make his life a little bit easier, I would imagine.
Fantastic. Well, as ever, Simon, it's really good to have
you
you
very
on.
much. Pleasure.
And
look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, Simon will be back obviously next week as usual. So I'll be joined in a little while by one of the fitters. So in the meantime, let me just have a little look on the stream here. Well, Matt Hyatt, one of the fitters, has just chalked in and he's helped us out. It's Y.E. Yang was the guy that was going to use a bag full of woods. I'm sure he played an odd bag. Yes, well, we've all played the odd bag in our time. Can you just leave your wood there, your three wood? Because I'm just going to have, just while one of the other guys comes and joins us, I'm just going to have a little hit with 3 different clubs here. And I think it'd be a good opportunity, just while Nick's coming and joining us, to talk about a little bit of technique about these woods. As we spoke earlier, ultimately when you're striking a golf ball, we all need some sort of shaft lean because that's going to create some sort of down. Now, of course, you can understand that with the 3-wood or the 4-wood or whichever club you're using, the more you lean the shaft forwards, the more the launch of the ball is going to come down because we've got the face being reduced. Now, there's a few reasons why golfers will have these different delivery patterns, but one principally is where the face angle points. So when a golfer comes into the golf ball, if their face angle is looking more up to the sky, so we've got a more open face. And I think this will be quite interesting to see the data when I come to hit one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grip the golf club a little bit weaker. So I'm going to put my thumb down the middle of the shaft. I'm normally a bit more, as an old friend of mine, Tim Butler, player, we used to call him Honda, used to grip it like that. It was like revving a motorbike. That's how strong his left hand used to be. So it got a quite bit strong. And that would make the club face, as it comes into the golf ball, really the face would start to look down. And when it's looking down, you can see how the loft of the angle, or loft of the club face, is pointing to the floor. So any sort of shaft lean, it's going to take the loft away. If I now grip that golf club weaker, thumb down the middle, now all of a sudden the club face is going to be coming in more like this. So we've got more of an open face. When we've got more of an open face, and then I lean the shaft forwards, you can obviously see that that ball or club's got more loft on it. So I leave the face open. I've still got the shaft lean forwards. I've got elevation still open to me. I now square that face up. Can you now see how the loft has completely disappeared? So I'm just going to hit a couple of shots here, and the first one I'm going to do is I'm just going to grip the golf club really weak. So I've got my thumb down the middle. I've got my right hand on top. So it's a really weak grip, which it feels absolutely hideous. And I might actually put a glove on for this, because the last thing I want to do is have a golf club going through the screen. So what we'll tend to see from here, anyone that grips the club along those lines of a weaker hold, we'll tend to see sort of longer swings. We'll see sort of clubs overrunning. We're going to get this face looking a little bit more to the right. And with it looking a bit more to the right, we'll tend to see a higher launch angle, a higher spin rate. So we'll see that one peer off. Look how all of a sudden I've got a bit more fade to it. And what you can see on the screen now, I've delivered 10.5 degrees of launch angle, more launch than I produced. Well, actually, that was up there on all of the shots. I've now got 4,000 revs, which is a very different profile to the one when I grip it with my normal grip compared to the grip there. Normal grip, much stronger for me. Now I'm going to hit a shot, and now we'll suddenly see the ball flight move in an opposite direction, and you'll start to see the ball drawing and see how the spin rate has halved. It's gone from 4,000 revs down to 2,000 revs. And that's just because of the loft that I'm producing on the golf club. So when Simon and I were talking about where the manufacturers have gone with their equipment, because most golfers in the world out there, say 15 years ago, and it really came from a certain Nick Faldo and a guy that used to coach him, it was very much thumb down the middle, right hand was on top, you'd make a backswing, the toe of the golf club would point to the floor, and the loft of the golf club would point up to the sky. And even in the old PGA manual, we'd always have the old toe up to the sky, get the face looking down. And that would produce the kind of shot into the Russock's Hotel. So super high ball flight. And remember, I'm using exactly the same golf club that I was using a little while ago. And all of a sudden, the launch of the golf club, or the launch of the golf ball, is going way up into the sky. If we could just pull that shot up onto the computer there, James, that's great. Just look at the launch angle on that. It's now got 14 degrees of launch. Didn't quite pick up the spin rate. Let's see if we can have another go with that. So thumb down the middle again, right hand on top. Going to add some loft on the way back. Oh, it came out the neck. That's going to spin even more. So again, decent amount of launch angle. 5,200. So I've gone from being a 2,000 low spinning golfer to all of a sudden a 5,000 or more spinning golfer, just from changing the way I hold the golf club. And then I'm going to go back to my regular hold. And of course, for those of you that are weak grippers out there, you're all trying to get the toe over it, which suddenly produces this outside in and rolling over club face. Of course, I don't need to do that when I now grip it in a slightly stronger hold. I now get way less launch angle. See, I'm back down to 9 degrees of launch angle, and I've got 2,500 revs on the golf ball. So very, very different swing profiles just by the way I grip the golf club. Now, the next person on the show is a very good friend of mine. He's been a good friend of mine for many, many years. In fact, I don't know any other golfers longer than this chap, Mr. Woodward. Mark Woodward, come on in.
Thank you, Stuart.
Lovely to have you on the show. So Mark is one of the fitters here. How long have you been working with the guys at Precision?
Just coming up 7 years.
I know.
Yeah, a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
And your history in the game, I mean, you've obviously been a great amateur golfer,
I wouldn't
handicap
go
one.
great. I
Well,
wouldn't go great.
well, no, neither would I. But I was really just being sort of nice on camera, really. The sledging that launches each other at each other on the golf course is relentless. So why would it stop now?
No.
But your history with the game, obviously been playing from young
Yeah.
lad. Lowest handicap you got down to?
2s.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that.
And county player, played for Surrey.
County A.
Yeah.
County A team for a number of years.
Surrey.
Yep, Surrey A team. A little bit of success here and there at county level. The odd Order of Merit event, whatever, but that's about it really.
And history of fitting and helping people with their golf equipment.
I've been in the golf industry primarily since '87.
You sure it's not 77?
No, 87.
Oh, 87, gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
87. So it's a long time, various places, scattered around Surrey. Been a club builder with Callaway, been a repairman, club repairs at various outlets where I've worked, likes of Welder Golf, Packersham, Horton Park.
You were at Callaway for a while as well.
Callaway, I was with 3 years. I was doing all the repairs for European accounts.
So you've been in
and
and
I've been
out.
a fitter at numerous places as well.
And I think with equipment, you really need to know it inside out, upside down, don't you? I mean, how a club is built, and I think something that James said, the fitting is really only as good as the build, and the build is only good as the fitting. The
Yeah,
two have to complement
yeah.
each other, and it's certainly something that I think, when you're working at a factory that's producing mass products, and of course they're doing as good as they can do, it's different to having it bespoke built by the guys here, and I think that's probably something that you would.
I've seen
resonate
it both
with.
sides. I've
Yeah.
seen the mass-produced side of it at Callaway. Here, the more precise element of it, and what's good about myself coming on board here is in knowing what goes on that side.
The build side.
Yeah, what goes on in terms of the build side. When you're building a spec for someone within the fitting process, you know your parameters, you know what you can and can't do, what is achievable, rather than an arbitrary spec that isn't achievable. It's obviously what works for someone, but knowing your parameters for what is achievable at the workshop level.
And so when you're going through a fitting, knowing what the guys can achieve in the workshop, I suppose when you're fitting the mainstay, the corridor of guys and girls out there that fit a certain stamp type, I suppose your knowledge and expertise really helps when you start to get to guys that are either super tall, super strong, because you're getting longer clubs, more upright clubs, which make it heavier,
Yeah.
and that kind of
Exactly that.
that sort of spec really has an impact on the build, doesn't it?
Someone's dimension, someone's body makeup, two very similar characters. One shifting at 80 miles an hour with a 6-iron, another guy at 100. What he can handle and what he wants as a specification of weight and balance isn't the same as the same guy, the same height, same arm length, you name it. So it's giving something to someone that truly works, regardless, not just about height and arm length and posture. It is a little bit more than that. You know, what truly swings well, what gives efficiency.
So since you got into fitting, I mean, it was black and white TV back then, so we didn't have the kind of the internet and that kind of stuff. Sorry, I've got to work it in there some way, shape or form. What's the biggest change that you've seen? I mean, we asked Simon this question. Be interested to get your insights. I mean, I remember back
Other than colour TV.
Other than colour TV and the fact that we now go around in cars with 4 wheels with engines, what is it that you've seen that has really evolved from a fitting standpoint or equipment standpoint?
If I go back far enough, I used to fit by eye. So flight, seeing flight, knowing from...
Which is mad, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, who can see? I mean, it used to be, oh, that's spinning a lot. No, that's not spinning at all. It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, but I would see a flight in the old days and ascertain, well, that's too high, that's spinning too much. You can just see from the shape of the fly. The level we're at now is with the likes of TrackMan and Foresight, having these monitors that truly give us precise numbers and honing in on that flight. That is the biggest change. And then with the adjustability element of the modern wood and how you can strap a single shaft onto any one of a number of manufacturers, and where precision golf has taken it to the next level again, and we can, with the attachment system we have of putting one shaft on various makes of club, iron head or wedge head, the variables are relentless, and that's the difference. When you're strapped into a certain quite narrow shaft infantry from a manufacturer, always find a good spec within that constraint. Now we take it to another level.
When I'm coaching myself, invariably when someone steps on the mat, within 2 or 3 swings, I can see the journey that I want to take them on. Is that similar for you? Do you look at the swing, understand pretty quickly what's going to go on, or do you get a few bumps in the road?
Well, part of our process is always assessing what they've got at the moment. If there are any flaws in that specification, so you could get variances in loft, lie, balance, and so forth, then actually in testing what they've actually got, see how good it can actually, how close it is to an optimum. But you do get a feel when you've been fitting for so many years. You see, this would work.
Sure.
And some people think you're a little bit of a Paul Daniels. You just pluck a shaft out the L. Can't believe you've just done that. But you do sense from how someone's physical attributes and how they move the club and what you see working weight-wise and balance-wise.
Let's take a little look down the shaft rack, and we're going to have the roaming camera. And what you were just referring to, the many variable shafts that go on here. Where would be a good start point? So let's say someone that's swinging it at, say, with their driver, 90 miles an hour.
Yep.
He hits down. He's a bit of a low ball flighter, but he's a strong guy. Where would you start yourself off?
Speed isn't the only parameter you would assess. The way someone loads it, the tempo, the speed, you can derive the same speed at the bottom of the swing from various tempos.
Of course, yeah.
So I tend to err a little bit more on the weight side of it if they were quicker, for instance.
So if they were,
but
would you go lighter or heavier?
I would tend to go a little bit heavier if someone's quite prompt in their tempo.
Transition.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And what shaft would that with a driver? Or is that a little bit of a?
You've always got your favourites as a start point.
Which is?
So it depends on where I see it tempo-wise, speed-wise. I like the Open Devotion range, for instance, as one of my start points because it's mid-weight, mid-balance.
These ones?
Yeah. So like, for instance, if say someone was in mid to high 90s, 100 mile an hour, even in the low area, something like a 6S. If someone was a little bit more pedestrian in tempo.
Nice description, that pedestrian. People have described my swing as pedestrian. In fact, Matt, I think, described it as pedestrian the other day.
Really?
Yeah, pedestrian.
Wow. I don't know. It's a little bit harsh. A little bit harsh.
So something a little bit more pedestrian.
Well, I just mean someone with a slower tempo. You might just drop them down to the 5 series,
Yeah, and so you never get overwhelmed by the many different shaft options that are out there. I mean, like I've said to Simon many times, all those shafts over there makes me feel very uncomfortable to pluck because you've got to know them intimately, haven't you? You've got to know every shaft.
Yeah, you've got to know weight, balance, and numbers on them can be a little bit misleading. So you can have a series that says 5 on it. It doesn't mean, it's 50. it doesn't mean it's 50 grams. It could be anywhere between 55 to nearly 60. Knowing what is a really, truly good weight, and then just fine-tuning it for the flight. And the profile will always have that subtle effect on just fine-tuning it. But getting the weight of it, for me, is the most important factor. Getting the weight of the shaft. And then you've got this sort of a short list to play around with.
Well, it's super insightful information, but what I've really got you into the bay for is to hit a shot, because
Thanks very much.
I'm gonna give you a 1 iron. No, I'm gonna give you. No, I'm gonna be friendly. I'm gonna give you an 8 iron.
All right.
I'm gonna give you an 8 iron. Do you
This
need a
is
glove?
probably about an inch longer than mine as well.
Do you need a glove?
I do if you've got one.
Well, but the trouble is, you're gonna pollute it, aren't you now? Go on, take my glove as well. I mean, honestly, this fella. No problem. Okay, Mark, take the stage.
Okay.
Let's see what you've got. So, Mark,
This is by the way, this is with my bifocal glasses on. I can't see a ball.
let me tell you. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've heard some excuses before. But bifocal glasses.
Yeah.
I've heard of tight hamstrings and all that kind
Have
of
you?
thing, but I haven't heard of bifocal glasses as being one of them. So what are you playing off at the moment, Mark?
6 essentially.
Are you 6?
Yeah, it's deadly.
Okay, let's see what you've got. And what shape of shot do you tend to hit? I mean, I'm asking you, I know, but what?
Well, you'll say the hooks, won't you? You obviously say the hooks.
No, I don't know what you're talking about, Mark. Oh, that's nice.
Bit clean.
That was nice. Bit left.
Well, I did say
Little bit of a
we
cast
mentioned the
off, but-
hooks, didn't we?
But you have come in cold, so we'll happily cut you a little bit of slack, Mark. We'll cut you a little bit of slack. Oh, lovely swing. Nice shot there. It's not easy. It's not easy coming on, plucking one out of the thin air.
That felt
and just
good.
They're nice, aren't they? Nice irons.
Yeah.
Nice irons. They certainly have beaten you a few times, but equally you've beaten me a few times. But anyway, we won't talk about that. So you're going to be doing a few live fittings going forwards. You're going to be one of the guys doing live fittings as well, which will be nice to see. Your delivery in terms of how you fit compared to the other guys. It's been really nice having you on the show, Mark. I haven't thrown you under the bus at all. I think I've been very, very nice.
Really. You have
I mean,
really.
I haven't been nasty. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
Really good. Thanks, Mark.
Cheers, Stu.
Pleasure. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. That's the end of this week's show. I don't believe we have any more questions. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment in the box below and we will answer them as soon as we possibly can. Next week, we're going to have a very special guest on, one of our new additions to the team here at Precision Golf. Stay tuned to our social media channels. We're going to be releasing that over the next 24 hours. If you've liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe and share with your friends. It really helps us. We want to grow this channel. We want to make it a really good community where you can stop by, see all the latest kit, get some good quality advice, and enjoy that golf on the weekend that little bit more. Thanks very much for your time. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.